Hi everyone, my name is Shalin Mathur. I'm the lead of the Developer Student Club here at Cal State Fullerton, and we'll be going over cracking the software engineering interview workshop today. But before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that like button, comment down below, and so you can get updates on our future videos. So the basic content we're going to go over today will be types of interviews and what to expect during your interviews. We'll be going over concepts to focus on to help you prepare for the interview. So we'll be going over technical and behavioral concepts. And then we'll be going over, how to solve a technical problem, give you tips and tricks for that, the key to acing your interview. And then at the end of it, we'll be doing a demo to how to tackle an interview. So some types of interviews that can occur. So there are both behavioral and technical interviews. Behavioral interviews focuses on soft skills and serves as a test to identify your thinking process and how you handle different situations. The technical interviews focus more on solving problems and pretty much testing your knowledge on various data structures and algorithms. Now, I would like to pass it off to Sagar Joshi, who will go over the concepts of interviews.
Thanks, Charlene. So we're going to be talking about the concepts of things that you'll be focusing on your interview or will be actually appearing on your interview. So when we talk about soft skills, basically they're just asking about situations that you've been through. So for example, tell me a time that you had to have this situation, how do you solve this problem? Or tell me a time where, for example, this amount of time this happened to you, what is your response to that? So mainly they just want to focus on, how are you as a person? How are you going to react to things? How did you solve certain problems? They just want to be able to test your brain, see what you are, and not only if you have the developing skills, they want to know how much of a people person you are. For types of things that you expect in your interviews, they may vary. So for example, like Google, for first and second year, they mostly focus on array, string, sorting, search. And just same for kind of like for internships as well. They must be focusing within that exact thing, but mostly through internships when you go from your junior year to full-time positions, it's mostly just the data structure algorithm. So courses like we had at CSUF, like 131 and 335, most of the stuff that's being covered on there is going to be the stuff that you'll be focusing on your interview. I can tell you from firsthand, binary search trees are actually a common thing that you'd be seeing, especially hash tables and linked lists and stacks. So to be able to, focus on everything and you want to know, what things to prepare for, those are things, especially in 131 and 335, study those. Those are the things that will always up in your interviews, no matter what position you apply for, whether it's for internship or full-time. And now we'll pass to Sam to talk about, steps and also an introduction to Umpire.
All right, thank you, Sagar. So hi, everyone, Samuel Sandoval, and I'm going to be explaining to you today how to solve a technical problem through a great approach called Umpire, and he will cue that up. So yeah, Umpire. So I'll explain what that stands for and how we could really approach this in a problem and why it's effective. All right, so here's a quick diagram on what Umpire is. So Umpire stands for understand, match, or it's short for understand, match, implement, review, and evaluate. So to go over each step, I'll kind of just give you an example and kind of understand what those do. So let's say you're given like the two-sum problem of an array where you're given an array and you're given like a value and you want to see like, okay, like what two values in this array like solve the problem and or equal to the sum of the value passed in, the other value. So what this process would look like in Umpire would be like, okay, so understand like what do you know about the problem? Ask if it's, or you can ask your questions. So like, such as, is it sorted? Is there just numbers, stuff like that. So understand, just, you're kind of looking for like asking those clarifying questions, running through some simple and simple cases as well as edge cases. So just trying to make sure like, okay, like as the developer, I understand what problem I'm trying to solve. Because one thing that's common in interviewers is that students and developers looking for positions will jump into the code before they even understand what the problem is. So that's a big no-no. Like, the interviewer wants to like help you solve the problem and make sure that, okay, you come in with the understanding of what the problem is, what the inputs and outputs are that are expected, and then that is how you get into solving match. So match is important because it's pretty much looking to see what the problem is like similar to, such as like if you're solving a linked list problem, what are some of the techniques and strategies and patterns? So if you're like working with a linked list, can you use two pointers? Can you use a dummy head? And such stuff like that. So it's just pretty much matching like problems that you've done that are similar that you can match like the way that you do the algorithm. plan. So plan pretty much stands for planning out your approach. This could be done with like pseudocode, or even if like you're kind of just commenting like what your steps are, or with like the code. Pseudocode is pretty much just like when you're like like making your algorithm in text, and it's like super similar to code, so you can transition into that. Definitely, it's definitely great because it helps you like think out loud and really get your thoughts across to the interviewer and see like where edge cases could creep up on you, and see like, oh, maybe I should try this approach instead of that. And then next is implement. So here you actually implement the algorithm that you planned out into code in the language of your choosing, and you kind of just walk through it step by step, kind of programming it out, and show your interviewer that you can code and really just think out aloud and produce your algorithm. The next step is review. And review is pretty much just saying like, okay, my algorithm is coded. Now let's just run through some of the test cases. You can just print out, all right, like let's call the function, let's put this input, let's see what was expected. And like for a two-sum, like, oh, let's say we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, and the value passed in is like 6. Well, it's gonna come out like, oh, these X and Y indexes will equal the value. So stuff like that, you're just reviewing to see like how the function matches up with like the print statements in the main and all that. Lastly, we have evaluate, and evaluate is just is a step that sometimes can be missed depending on the timing of your interview, but it's definitely really important because you evaluate your code and see like, okay, this is what I did. Sometimes your interviewer could be like, okay, what's the big O of this? You could just give the runtime of the time complexity and the space complexity. And then another thing is like, okay, like sometimes you be like, all right, let's make this faster. What could you do to optimize this? Sometimes you could literally just tell them, oh, I'll just do X, Y, Z. They'll be fine with that. Sometimes there's enough time to even like just redo the whole algorithm and make it so a lot faster, because that's important to make your algorithms as quick as possible, because computers process these things quick. So yeah, that's Umpire in a nutshell. We'll drop a review description in the description, and definitely recommend it. I use it in my interviews, and it's very successful with how to tackle an interview. So here's just a quick slide on some resources of how to prepare for these interviews. So you got like these helpful books like Cracking the Coding Interview, Grokking Algorithms, and then some sites like LeetCode, HackerRank, and AlgoExpert. These are definitely great tools to really just get your grind on with these problems, understand what these problems could be, think out loud with your steps and your thoughts, and just really to see like how you solve these problems. And I definitely know from experience, like solving these problems on some of these sites and books has definitely helped me to get an understanding of what types of problems to expect and how I could actually solve them and get more confident and familiar with the types of problems to expect. So definitely great resources. And now we're going to actually show you a quick demo of a coding interview with two of our DSCD board members, and just showing you how to approach an algorithm problem, what things to do, and kind of just showing you the Umpire process in action through a mock coding interview. So see you there.
All right. So Angela, you ready for today?
Yes.
All right, that's fantastic. So first of all, let me give you an introduction to myself. My name is Sagar Joshi. I'm a software engineer. I'm a senior software engineer at Google. And today we're just going to go over a quick little problem, if you don't mind, since today is your interview. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
All right. So, okay, fantastic. So today we're going to go over the concept of anagrams. So I'm sure you know what an anagram is, but for a quick refresher, anagram of a string is another string that basically contains the same characters. So like the word silent and listen, they both have the exact same thing, but they're in different order. So your job today is to be able to match two characters and be able to determine if they're anagrams or not. So I will give you the word listen and silent. So tell me, within programming in your respective language, I believe it's Java, please tell me if they are anagrams or not.
All right. Thank you so much, Sagar. My name is Anjali, and I'm interviewing for the software development engineer position at Google. So the words you mentioned were silent and listen, right? So
Correct.
I just wanted to walk you through my thought process. So the first thing that you defined was an anagram. So I believe that an anagram, like two anagrams, have the same letters in them. So for example, if we were to sort both the strings, they would be sorted from A to Z, and theoretically both of them should have the same letters in the same order. So that is one solution that I thought about. So another solution would be maybe I could do a brute force. I could iterate through both the strings and check to see if, they have the same letters and the same number of each letter. But that is like a solution that isn't pretty, what do you say? It isn't good. Like it isn't, it's complicated. Time complexity is high. So the next thing that I can think about is I just throw everything into a hash map, which has O of 1 lookup. So it's pretty efficient, and O of 1 access time as well. So what do you think so far? Do you think one of these approaches are right?
Well, you have everything right down. You are correct about the anagram itself, that it must have the same exact letters and it must be almost the exact same length. Just be able to focus on, how to be able to sort that. Try to figure. You were in the right ballpark about, and don't worry about the time complexity. We just want to know if you're able to get it through. So, like the words I gave you are silent. Listen, just from the program itself, can you be able to write it down and be able to determine if it is an anagram or not?
Right. Okay. So now if you're viewing my screen, I'm gonna write down the example you gave me. So silent and listen, right? So if you sort both of these, you're gonna get, for silent, it's gonna be E, I, L, N, T, S, right? And for listen, it's gonna be E, I, L, N, T, sorry, ST, sorry, my bad. Yeah, so now you see when you sort both of them, they're exactly the same. They're exactly the same number of letters and in the same order. So this tells me that it's an anagram. So in Java, there is a built-in function that is called, this is the syntax. So it's arrays.sort. And what this does is it basically sorts the character array, and it does it in O of n log n time. So this is equivalent to like a quick sort, right? So that's the most efficient kind of sort in Java. So the first solution that I'm thinking about is, so I'm just gonna write a basic algorithm down, and then we can take another test case and run it through and see if it works. And then if everything looks good, I can start coding up the solution. How does that sound?
Fantastic. Let's see what you got.
All right. So step one, so in Java, you know that strings are immutable, right? So the first step that we have to do is we have to convert strings into character arrays. So convert, for example, S1 and S2 to char arrays. Now they're in a position where I can use the default sort function on them. So then I say arrays.sort S1, then I do arrays.sort S2. So this sorts S1 and S2 in place, so it takes no extra space, right? And finally, there's a built-in function in Java that's, I believe, arrays.equals, or S1.equals S2. I don't remember the syntax exactly, but I believe there's a built-in function that checks if S1 and S2 are equal after they're sorted, and if this returns true, then it would be, they would be anagrams. So then I would just return true to the function, and if not, then I would just return false. And yeah, that would be the end of it. So now the only thing that's remaining is, I have a few questions. So if one of the strings is empty and the other isn't, so in this case, what should I return as the answer?
Well, so if you want to do the, for an error case, just have it return false, or have it like return a string that says this is not an anagram because this is empty. but it's entirely up to you from there.
Okay, all right. So I would say since the function itself is returning a Boolean value, I would just return false. Does that work?
Yeah,
All right.
that's totally fine.
Great, thank you. And another question I have is, if both strings are empty, is it true in that case?
So in reality, technically true, but we wanted to have it at least have some sort of character or a string. So just put like an input saying that there's nothing in these strings.
Okay, that's fine. And one final question. Are both the strings like uppercase or lowercase or mix? It could be any.
For this interview itself, let's make it all lowercase.
All right, great. That makes sense. So this approach that I just described has a time complexity of O of n log n and has a space complexity of O of 1. So would you agree? And do you think I should go ahead and code it up?
Yeah, if you're ready, let's do it.
All right. So once I finish coding this up, maybe then if we have some time, I can try and optimize further. But for now, I'm just gonna get started. So I'm gonna create new function, public static, let's say Boolean is anagram, which takes in an input, 2 string inputs, right? So that's the first thing. Okay, so now as per our discussion, if this one, okay, so there's one more edge case that I forgot to mention. In case S1 and S2 have different lengths, then there is no way that they can be anagrams, right? So that is
correct.
Okay, great. So what I can do is if S1 dot length is not equal to S2 dot length, then I simply return false. Sorry. All right. So that's taken care of. The other thing is if S1 dot length is equal to 0 and S2 dot length is not equal to 0, or this same thing but swapped. S1 dot length is not equal to 0 and S2 dot length is equal to 0. In this case as well, I would return false because they can't be anagrams of each other. Okay, great. Now I'm gonna go ahead and convert S1 and S2 to character arrays. So the way I'll be doing that is char str1 is equal to S1 dot to char array, and the same for S2. All right, so now we're all set up to use our built-in function. So now we can just go ahead and call arrays.sort str1 and arrays.sort str2. Right, so now each of these character arrays should be in their sorted form, and we simply check and I just simply return s1 dot, sorry, str1 dot equals str2. I'm not too sure about this syntax, but it's looking all right to me. So, but it's it's never late. I mean, it's never too late to test your code out. It's always better. So I'm just gonna take another example. Let's say body and So we know that this should return true, right? So if we do a dry run, so over here, it goes here first. So it checks if the lengths are not equal. That's not true, so it won't enter this if clause. Now over here, it won't enter this either because none of them are empty strings. So now it goes here directly. So now str1 would be B, D, O, Y. And str2 would be the same thing, B, D, O, Y. So now this return statement would return if a true or false, depending on what would happen at this step. So in this case, it would return true, which is what we are expecting, right? Let's take another example where, something different, like different strings. So suppose A, H, A, S. I'm just taking like two arbitrary strings and A, D, H. So suppose we have this case, then it would go into this if statement and would just return false. So that's taken care of. And if both are, oh, so I missed this this edge case, right? If both are empty strings, right? If this one dot length 0 and s2 dot length 0, sorry, then I believe you said I should return a string, but since it's a Boolean function, is it all right if I return a false or a true? I mean, technically, two empty strings are kind of anagrams of each other, right? So is it all right if I return a true in this case?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
All right, so this just represents that both strings are empty and, therefore they're anagrams of each other, even though technically there's nothing in the strings. So this solution is looking pretty good. I think this is the solution that should be accepted if I run it. Okay, so we need a driver. So what we'll do is anagram. Oh, sorry. Anagram. Okay. So let's take your example, the one you gave me first, just to check everything. Silent and listen. Silent and listen. All right. So I think this should work. Where do I run?
It's on the top. On the top, it says run. The green button in the right in the middle of the top.
All right. Okay. All right. There seems to be an error. What does it say? Cannot find symbol. Oh, I think I gotta do an import. Let's try now. Okay, so it says false, which is not supposed to happen. Let's see what went wrong. So I sent two strings. Okay, so it won't go here because they are the same length. Okay. Right. Okay. I think it has something to do with this line. Let me try something else, because everything is arrays.sort, so I feel like it will be the same format. Let's STR1, STR2. Let's see if this works. Oh, okay. So for this case, it's working. So I think it was just the syntax error there. Let's try another one. Let's try all the edge cases that we've had. Let's try 2 empty strings. What else? Let's try 2 strings of different lengths. Let's try 1 empty string and 1 filled. And let's try it the same with the other one. Would you like me to add any more cases?
No, I think we're good right there. We'll see if it runs.
All right, so I'm hitting run. Okay, so it's true, it says true here. It says false here, and false here. Seems to be working for all cases. All right.
Fantastic. And can you talk to me through about the runtime again?
Oh yeah. So the time complexity for a sorting algorithm, the most efficient one is, I believe, quicksort. So the time complexity that algorithm takes is O of n log n, where n is the number of letters in the string that's being sorted, right? So in this case, since there are 2 different strings, but they have the same length, it would be O of n log n, the worst case time complexity. In terms of space complexity, it is true that I am using 2 character arrays. So yeah, so if you take that into consideration, then the space complexity would be O of m plus n, where m is the number of letters in string 1 and n is the number of letters in string 2. So that would, I believe that would be what the space complexity would be like.
No, that's perfectly fine. This was actually a little bit more different than what most people would do, is that they would create like 2 different ints, which in each int they would have the string itself and have it to be dot length. But this is actually not a topic as well, and plus there's actually a little bit more longer of time complexity compared to this. It's actually much shorter. So this was a good job.
Thank you so much everyone for watching our video. If you like it, then please share it, subscribe, like the video, drop a comment below. And we have on our Discord server an interview prep workshop. So if you want to get better at coding interviews, we post a question every day at 10 a.m. and the solution at 10 p.m. So feel free to join our Discord server. The link is in the description box below. And yeah, thank you so much.